We are live with the Short Term Rental Pros podcast. Today, I'm here with my fellow North Carolina guy, Mike Reilly, who has grown a very impressive co host business as well as purchased several properties of his own. So he is full time, a former Googly, right?
Yeah, former Googler. Zoogler is what they call us.
And now full time STR guy. So super excited for the episode today. We're going to talk about some of the tailwinds that are helping folk right now in the co-host space, specifically at the demise of some of these big property managers such as Vacasa. And we're just going to get into a lot of the exciting things that are going on right now and allow Mike to share, things he's learned in the last several years going from Google to being his own boss. So Mike, thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here, fellow North Carolinian.
Yeah, and just for some context, guys, Mike did go to my rival high school. I think he only went for a year or two, so maybe I don't hold it too much against you.
Yeah, had to get
But
out as possible. That's for sure.
yeah, I don't think he liked it there. So but I would say maybe we were rivals in one lifetime, but now we are friends. So, but yeah, Mike, tell me about yourself. Other than coming from North Carolina, give me your background, and also I want to get into after that. I want to go into we can obviously talk about the good all day and the transformation that short term rentals has had on your life, but we also I like to talk about the bad. We'll give us your background, and then I would love to hear your Airbnb horror story.
Yeah, for sure. So grew up in North Raleigh and I played tennis. I mean, that's pretty much all I did growing up. So like from the age of 12 until 22, that was pretty much all I did with any of my free time. So ended up playing tennis at Penn State, came back down to North Carolina like as quickly as possible after I figured out I wasn't going to go pro in tennis. And so I just got a job in Raleigh doing tech sales for one of the bigger companies in the Raleigh area, and ended up taking a new job about 3 years later in 2018 in Nashville, Tennessee, and was traveling all the time for that job. It was with another software company, and I was making good money. I was probably 25 at the time, making really good money. And but I knew there was something that needed to change, kind of the direction of where my now wife and I were going. And so, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, just like everybody else getting into this. This is probably mid 2019 at this time. And so I was like, hey, I gotta find a different income stream and figure out like, you know, what I was doing. And I was actually getting into network marketing at the time. Somebody had sold me and talked me into getting into network marketing. And me and my wife, we
Interesting.
talked about it.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard of that one as like the get rich quick
Right. Yeah,
network
so, I
marketing.
mean, the guy who, like, kinda got us in, he sold us on, like, the big picture of, like, being your own boss and, like, building your own business on the side and just doing it through, being he was the one who actually gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I
Is
thought
this
was
is
pretty
network
smart.
marketing the same as like affiliate marketing?
Pretty much. It's like a pyramid scheme. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kinda what it is. It's like you sell your stuff, you sell the Amway stuff, and then you recruit more people, and then you recruit more people, and then they recruit more people,
Sell
and
stuff and then
it's
it works.
passive, right? Yeah, it's passive income is what they sell it as. And like I got respect for people in that industry. There's a lot of people that make good money doing that, but my wife and I were like, this is not for us. Like, we don't want to be selling like skincare products and like, toiletries and stuff like that to our friends. So ended up, I was like, all right, we got to do something else. Started listening to Bigger Pockets. And then I was like, all right, I need to go down the long-term rental path. Like I need 100 units in the next year, like the Joe Fairless stuff. And then I listened to a podcast with my buddy John Farber and Mike Shogren. And Mike was talking about Airbnb. And that's something my wife could get behind. She was like, "Yeah, let's get a mountain house. Let's get one in Western North Carolina." So ended up joining a mastermind, joining Mike's mastermind in late 2019. We bought our first property in April of 2020. We weren't even married yet, but really the whole goal and the whole why behind it was to get my wife to leave her job. And that first property that we bought is in Brevard, North Carolina. It was about 7 hours from where we lived in Nashville at the time. And that thing, we bought it for 260,000
Wow.
and it grossed 98,000 in the first year. So our eyes were like, "Oh, this works." Airbnb stuff, this actually works. And this was during COVID when like people were like, do we travel? Do we not travel? And so interest rates were 3% at the time. So we're like, all right, let's go buy another one. So we bought another one in my wife's hometown in August. And then that got us to about 6K a month just in like 6 months. And so my wife was able to leave her job, do real estate full time, run our business full time. And that's when we were pretty much out of money and started co-hosting. Started co-hosting for friends, family, telling everybody what we did. And then I made a job change to Google at the time, which was like my, dream job in mid 2020. And then had more of a realization there of like, I still have a boss. Yeah, I work for Google, but like this is not what I want to do. Like I would look at my boss's boss and be like, man, they're like 40, 50 years old. I do not want to be doing that in 10, 20 years. So that's when we went full time, pretty much growing the co-hosting business. And now we own 9 properties. We manage another 16 properties, so 25 total. And I got 2 guys that work for me that pretty much run 90% of the operations. And I play a lot of golf now. I'm always looking for new investments, and I do some coaching as well. So that's kind of the shortened down 3-minute version of our story.
And guys, we had to reschedule this because Mike is serious about the golf. It's okay. I forgive him for that too.
I'm not any
Um,
good, but I love to play.
Got it. So again, this all sounds great. You own 9 properties. Seems like obviously you ran the numbers and they're doing pretty well. You got your operations in a smooth place. Having two full time guys, I'm assuming overseas virtual assistants.
Yeah, yeah, they're in the Philippines. They both used to work for Airbnb, and yeah, just kind of trained them up on our systems and properties, and they run the show.
Yeah, it's actually because I have 25 listings as well, and I have two because people ask like, what's the right number to have, and I'm like, I don't. I mean, I need like to study every single person and see everyone's exact portfolio, and to
Yeah,
I have two and it works, but so it's good to it's reassuring that with the same number of listings you have two team members as well. But okay, so yeah, so tell me about all this sounds good. Tell me about the bad. What's the worst or most horrific situation you've had in the last I guess last 3-4 years?
yeah. I'll start with a property that we bought. So we bought another property in Brevard in late 2020. Yeah, it was like we closed December 31st, 2020. And we bought it at that time. We got an investment home loan, conventional loan for 2.8, yeah, 2.85%, which we will never see,
Golly,
right?
investment loan for 2.85. That is
And it
crazy.
was it had a view. It was I think it was like a $300,000, maybe $360,000 house. I can't remember now. And we bought it from for sale by owner.com. Like at that point in late 2020, there was nothing on the market. Like there was no new properties coming on. So like I found this one, I guess technically off market, but like she just didn't want to use an agent to list it, the seller. And her name was Gypsy Anna. And I found out that the house was cursed. So
Not just by gypsy magic.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I that was kind of a red flag at the beginning. I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna think about it. Ended up, we we moved into the house. We're getting it ready. 3 days into it, the property is on a well, and there was no water in the house after like 3 days. We drained all of the water. We're supposed to get a hot tub in and everything. We were supposed to get up and running in like 2 weeks. We had to dig an extra like 600 feet just to hit water again. It was like an extra $15,000 that, that I didn't plan or budget for. And at that time, like I was pretty much draining our savings account just to buy the property, just to put the 20% down to buy the property. So that took us about 3 weeks to fix. And the lesson learned, I will always get a well inspection every time. Well and septic inspection on every property. So that was kind of the first biggest like, uh-oh. I know it's not an Airbnb story. I mean, I was before we got on here, I was thinking about some, and I've had some properties flood, which really it's not too big of a deal. Like you got to get the mold people in, and you're just out for like 2 weeks. But if you have the right insurance plan, you have the right damage protection plans, like you can get through a lot of that stuff. Like I've had AC go out, heat go out. I've had people claim that the property was infested with bugs and bees and stuff like that, but nothing like be too horrible. I did tell this on a podcast like 2 years ago. One of the houses that we bought here locally, where I live in New Bern, North Carolina, we bought a 4 unit, and the next door neighbor, once they found out we were turning one of the units into Airbnb, cussed me and my wife, my pregnant wife, out, and like told us that we were just doing a get rich quick scheme, like we were making the neighborhood terrible, like cussed us out 3 or 4 different occasions, and ended up like we had like she was cussing out our guests too that were coming into the house. So like that alone was the second property that we bought. I mean, we were kind of freaked out at that time. We were like, all right, do we need to pump the brakes on like on doing this if like everybody hates it? So ended up took some advice from actually my dad. He was like, you know what you need to do? You just need to print out a one pager of like who you guys are, what you do, who you serve, because it was an Airbnb, but it was mainly for like traveling nurses and like for people that worked at the hospital. So all we did was print that out. We did a write up of what we do, gave it to her, and then we actually moved 3 doors down as well from her. So like she's still in
Oh,
the
so you
and
you
like
you showed face.
yeah, I mean we're see her all the time, and now she's like all sweet and all like, oh my gosh, like let me see your kids and they can call, I can babysit anytime, and we're like absolutely not. Like
Not with that
I'm
mouth.
no, like I don't want to have anything to do with you, but yeah, so that was another thing that scared us off a little bit when we were getting into this early, but, you know, I tell people is like, you can get through anything. It's just if your why is strong enough, you can get through, any Airbnb horror story that's there.
Exactly, and yeah, it takes a little bit of grit, to get over those first situations, but I like to, like, compare it to, you know let's compare it to your previous job. Does that I'm sure you got emails out of nowhere, that maybe didn't have curse words on them, but weren't the kindest things, maybe a little bit more professional.
Yeah.
But, how do you just showed face here, and that's what I always recommend to people. Show face to your neighbors, like, show face early on, during, if you're gonna renovate the home or whatever, like, make sure you're there and, if there's construction going on, let the neighbors know, tell them, "Hey, if you have any issues, like, give us a holler." But that's really the best way to remedy neighbor issues, and, like, I've definitely, once you get up to, 1, 2 listings, not that probable, but the more and more and more you do, like, the chances just compound. But also it's kinda funny, the Western North Carolina well story, I literally have practically that exact same story. We bought one off market, uh it was actually on a underground spring, so it wasn't on a well, and the water pressure was terrible, like, so we put in a pressure pump, we put in
Mhm.
a second holding tank because we were like, "Alright, maybe it's not gonna fill up fast enough, so we need 2 holding tanks because, Airbnb guests are gonna go through the water, they're gonna take 40-minute showers."
Yep.
So we thought that that could do it, but then actually about this time of year, I guess in Western NC, it goes from rainy season in the summer to like the dry season right now, I guess. So about actually at this time last year, it just stopped. It just no water was being replenished. And we literally had to get a service. We called There's not a lot of like water because this time of year is like the busiest time in Western NC, which actually I do want to get in a second how you're pacing in Western NC, because I'm curious as someone who operates in the same region. But yeah, we had to I called like every possible place on Google to try to find a service that would fill our water tanks, and I found like a fill pool, like a service that literally fills pools out of Asheville, and begged them. I'm like, please, please drive. Like this was like a $3,000 October booking. Like, please come and like I'll pay you whatever. Just come to fill our tank. And the guy's like a 7-year-old guy. Like he came, but then he had to go up a hill to get to the tank. And he was like, hell no, like I'm not walking up this hill to fill the tank. Fortunately, the guests were really eager for the water, so they walked up the hill for him. And then, as it turned out, somehow our cleaner's husband owned the local water delivery service. Totally, and he owns like 7 other random small businesses. And, he didn't advertise on Google. It purely, kinda Western NC, that purely word of mouth, like no Google advertising. So, fortunately had him be able to come in, over the next like 3 months because it takes a while to get a well permit. I don't know if you experienced that, but like they can't just come the next day and drill. And plus, like Western NC, I mean, I tell people like if you go to rural places, expect service providers to take longer for anything. But
Mhm.
the well service was also booked out months in advance, in addition to having to get a permit. So that was like we literally put we put a measuring gauge on our tank, on our 2 tanks. So we could see when they were full, when they were not full in order to predict, like, how many times we would need to fill it in a week.
Yep.
So, in hindsight, that was, like, a really funny time, but then we got the well and,
Good.
we once you get the well at that point, like, what can go wrong? As
Yeah.
long as you dig just deep enough, but that's really funny that, we've had, like, very similar experiences there.
Yeah,
Uh
we had the Ring camera looking at the holding tank for a while just to make sure that the holding tank was actually filling up. So I
oh,
would
so it's above ground.
yeah, so the holding tank was above ground. We had the one obviously in the ground, but then we had one above
The
ground to
second
make sure
one.
that yeah, and we had the Ring camera. So I was, like, pulling it up all the time just to check on it and make sure it was working.
Yeah, that's like yeah, we should have put our second holding tank above ground because we had to sometimes we would lose service to the receptor that would tell us, so we'd be like, "Alright, we need to get someone over just to go and, like, open the tank and, like, look, otherwise we have to pay, like, $500 to fill it, so we'd rather pay someone $100 just to go use their eyes."
Yeah.
But
And the
yeah, so
I
what
tech is so behind for, like, hot tubs for whatever reason, and for plumbing, like, the tech on like, they're claiming this IoT, Internet of Things, like, we can put sensors on anything, but for stuff like this, which is so essential, they're so behind right now. So,
and compounded with probably not as good of internet service in
yeah,
Western North Carolina.
go
So it's
dial.
like sometimes the internet goes out too, so you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
But tell me, how is your Western NC properties pacing? Because we got our we have 2 in Western NC. One of them we got in, February of 2022, right as, like, rate hikes were about to happen.
Mhm.
So, when we started, they were gonna uncuple the second home loan from, like, the primary home loan.
Yep.
So, we were aggressive at that point in order to, get a 3 point whatever percent interest rate, 10% down. And we actually, like, had a really great winter, like, incredibly good winter, like, very, very happy, and then this fall just hasn't been pacing as good as last fall, for us, and, yeah, I was just wondering, I haven't actually asked anyone else in the area what they're seeing.
Yeah. So my places, I basically operate in 2 different places. There's Brevard, where I have four properties, and then in, like, the Banner Elk, Boone type area, I have
Sure,
properties up there. That area up, like, Banner Elk, Boone area is just
doing
way more
well.
concentrated. Well, it's
Oh, okay.
for me, I haven't updated the properties in a while. They're 2 properties that I manage or co-host, so they're not mine that I own. The one in Boone's still doing well. The one in Sugar Mountain area, in 2020, 2021 even, it was crushing it. But
Mhm.
now it's 2022, 2023, it's just the weeks aren't getting booked, the weekends are getting booked, and it's just there's everybody brought properties up there in that area and
Yeah.
put it on Airbnb. So it's a lot more for my bedroom count and then also for the design of the property. It just needs updated.
Yeah.
Well, that area is not doing as well, but Brevard is still, I mean, year over year, we're pacing well. The only thing that has dropped off is the lead times. So people were booking, in 2022 and especially 2020, 2021, they were booking 2, 3 months in advance for my 2 bedroom and for my 3 bedroom. But right now it's 30 days. Like it's shrunk. 30 days or less is my average for the Brevard properties. So it's still looking good. September is always light in the mountains just because people are going back to school. But for whatever reason, this past month was really good. October is good as well. November is good. December's the rates are a little bit lower than they were last year that they're booking at, but like nothing for January, February right now.
Got it, okay. And, yeah, I asked this guy, this was kind of personal, I wanna know because I have our property there, and just to, give some context, like, we got this place for 429, and, like, it was pacing to hit 100K year over year, like, based off last year's fall and this year's, January, February, March up until July, so I was super excited because that's, an insane, and, purchasing peak of prices in 2022.
Mhm.
So now I've had to kind of taper my expectations there. It won't be bad, we might hit 88K or 90K or something, but not
How
gonna
big
get
is the
that.
house?
It's a 4, 3.5, but it sleeps 12. So that
Mhm.
was kinda my buy box, and actually, I'm curious kinda what your buy box is, but my buy box has always been I like the multi-generational family travel, like, put 3 families in a home, give them a game room. I
Mhm.
guess what has yours been?
Yeah, I've got two different. So one's the vacationer, and I think what a lot of people are seeing right now, and I'm seeing it as well for my 5 bedroom place, is the family they're traveling on the weekends during the off season. In the summer, it's great, and then holidays is great, but the off season, so in Brevard, let's say September, October, January, February, March, the bigger properties that sleep 12 plus aren't getting booked during the week. So we've had to kind of pivot and offer like different listings for different guest counts.
Oh my goodness, so you, like, offer a floor or something
Yeah.
during the week?
So
Wow, that's
our
interesting.
biggest property is a 5 bedroom. It's got the main house and then it's also got like a garage and then 2 rooms in that like garage house. So it's detached.
Sure.
So right now we have 3 listings, one for like the whole property, one for just like the main house, and then one just for the like garage house, just to maximize occupancy. So I've been telling people for the bigger houses, if you can do that, like create multiple listings for, you can lock a bedroom off or something like that. So your cleaning fees are a little bit less. But for the bigger properties that aren't getting booked during the week right now, try and figure out if there's a way that you can just block off a couple rooms or block off something so that you can up occupancy. And we only do that like 30 days in advance. We'll open up just the main house, which sleeps 8. And then 2 weeks in advance, we'll open up just the garage house, which sleeps 4. So that way, people aren't booking, just the garage house like 90 days out. And then it just kind of ruins my entire week or weekend for bigger groups. So that's my strategy right now, just to combat that. But but overall, I think like Western North Carolina is growing. I think the property values are only going to grow as well
Mhm.
with everybody from the Northeast wanting to move down here.
And
Um,
Florida. A
and
lot of
Florida.
Florida and Western North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. So yeah, I call that strategy the duplex strategy. I've used it, for properties. There's actually an arbitrage duplex where I rent it and I list out the top floor and the bottom floor separately, but I also list them out together. And the reason my thought process behind there is just 3 listings versus one. So it just if you're searching, there's a higher probability that it's going to show up. So it's interesting that you've kind of taken that strategy, but you've created another use case for it. So
Yeah.
definitely, and I'm curious the logistics of how you do it, but I'm sure you've got your 2 guys in the Philippines. They know it because I don't know of any automation software that'll open a new listing and close it. Or
Yeah.
maybe how do you? I'm curious. Maybe people listening aren't as interested as I am in terms of the logistics of how you do that.
Yeah, so this is part of the reason why I love Hospitable. I brought this use case up to them 3 months ago because I'm doing it manually right now, and they're actually building out a way to do this. You know how they've got, like, their parent-child listings? Now they're gonna have, like, their grandparent, parent-child listings. They're all gonna be separate, so there's gonna be a way to automate that through Hospitable going forward. They're finishing development on it, I think, this week, and then I'm gonna start testing it in a couple weeks. So, it's,
Got it. Their parent-child listings are relatively new too, because
yeah.
Airbnb had the parent-child, and for my duplex, it was such a pain in the butt because, like, Airbnb would automatically block something, but then Hospitable wouldn't really understand
Mhm.
what was going on there, so Hospitable wouldn't block it too, so you get double booking on Verbo, and now recently see, I don't even I just like VAs figure it out, Like, so recently there's been other issues, but now I'm gonna tell them about this whole parent grandparent thing and hope we can figure okay, cool. So that is interesting. Definitely taking some notes there. And I use Hospitable as well. So something Mike and I were talking about before the podcast, uh, like trends that we're seeing. Every time I talk to someone before, I was like, "Hey, what are you seeing in the space? What's interesting?" And Mike talked about how he's seeing a lot of homeowners, who own their vacation homes, second homes, going away from Vacasa and Evolve, which are the big, property managers that have thousands and thousands of listings across the country. So when have you seen this like trend start to accelerate? Why have you seen it? And what are you doing to kind of capitalize on this?
Yeah. So everybody bought a second home, vacation home really in the last 2 years. Like a lot of the high net worth people, they've figured out one, there's great tax reasons for it. And then two, property values are still low and interest rates were low, right? Until the last like 12 months. So what did they do? They're like, all right, cool. This Airbnb thing, I can throw it on Airbnb. I can hire a property manager. And if you go into any market and Google property manager for
They're
Airbnb,
running ads.
exactly, who's got the
Evolve
biggest,
and Mikasa are showing up at the top.
yeah. And so Vicasa's, claims, they're more regionalized. So like what they did is they came in and bought up different realty groups all around the country that were running vacation rental, you know, programs and had hundreds of listings. And they went in, they bought those companies. And so that's kind of how they expanded. And so they charge 30 to 35%. They claim that they do everything, but they have a very lean staff in almost all the markets. And they're having trouble like keeping staff and keeping people. So the vacation homeowners, they build relationships with the people and then all of a sudden they turn over and they turn over and they turn over and like things go missing, things get damaged. And Vacasa's, publicly traded. I think they're on the NASDAQ. They just did a reverse stock split because their stock was like, I think like 7 cents a share. And they just did a reverse split. Now they're back in okay standing with NASDAQ. But, uh, but anyways, they're hurt and their clients feel the same way. So, a lot of people are moving off of Vacasa for a lot of different reasons I just mentioned. And then Evolve is kind of like on the other side of it. Vacasa says we'll take care of everything. Evolve says, hey, we'll only charge you 10%, but we'll take care of the permitting process for you. And like we'll do a front end marketing plan for you. We'll create your listing. We'll take the pictures for you, but you do everything else. Like you message the guests, you message the cleaners, you do all the damage protection. Like you do everything homeowner, but I'm only going to charge you 10%. And so like that 10% is really for nothing, honestly. Like they give you a website. That's pretty much it. And they don't like run ads. They don't market your property at all. They just take pictures and say good luck. So people are getting frustrated with Evolve as well because one, they're paying 10%, but they're not doing anything either. So, the homeowner is like, man, this is a lot of work and I'm supposed to be paying Evolve to do this. So those are the pain points that I'm hearing. And, if I'm somebody who wants to grow a coasting business, what I'm, you know, looking at is like, all right, where are the Vacasa properties in my market that fit my, what I call buy box, like the properties I would want to manage. So, if you're in the Brevard market or even like I'm close to Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, I would look at every single property that Vacasa manages, every single property that Evolve manages, try and get the addresses for those properties and then the contact information for those owners, and then start reaching out to those owners, whether it's email campaigns, text campaigns, like cold calling campaigns, because a lot of them are hurt. And that's something that I've seen. It's worked for me and it's worked for, I mean, dozens of people that I've coached and worked with on like, how do I grow a coasting business? It's like, this is the lowest hanging fruit. They're already short-term rentals.
Hmm.
There's the pain points are the same across the board. And there's just massive opportunity for you to come in and add value to, these big, big companies. And I think my mentor called it like 2 years ago when somebody asked him, hey, what do you see for the future of property management with Airbnb? And I totally agree with it. He said, the big players in property management are going to get pushed out by the boutique short-term rental operators, the professional hosts like you and I, because the big guys just aren't going to be able to scale. And we, in order to run a good living with like 60-70% profit margins for a coasting business, you don't need that many properties, 20, 30, 40, 50. I mean, you're definitely making six figures at 20 properties, right? So you get 50 properties, you're making 250 a year and you got two VAs working for you. That's a pretty good living right there. And it's relatively passive. I wouldn't say it's like fully passive at all, like a lot of people claim. But so that's what I've been seeing recently is like Evolve, Vacasa, they're falling off. There's low hanging fruit there to grow a co-hosting business, and a pretty simple way to do it too.
And I think it's interesting the progression because Evolve and Vacasa bought the boutique property managers, and they would buy them at like 4 to 5 times or 4 to 5 times like annual revenue. And now you can buy these same boutiques, or not the same ones. I mean, they're definitely, the M&A has slowed down, but it's
Mhm,
selling at like 1 to 2 times EBITDA. And then because, the market has found that keeping the clients is difficult because a big part of the management aspect is the relationship with homeowners.
mhm,
You're not only serving the client or the guests, you are also keeping the homeowners happy. And sometimes it's like rational stuff. Oh, I'm making less money than I made last year. Sometimes it's the homeowner who wants to vent about something and you're just going to talk to them, versus, hey, like fill out this form here on Vacasa.com to submit your complaints. So, yeah, I've definitely seen in the co-host space, yeah, growing a 20, 5, 10, 20 unit co-host business, running great margins, but definitely getting up into like the multi hundreds is extremely challenging. I mean, the
mhm.
same thing for arbitrage. Like, it's extremely challenging to kind of get past. I mean, I said this the other day. I was like, I mean, I got Superhost at, I have 25 listings. Like, the percentage of people who get Superhost is small. The percentage of people who get Superhost and have, more than 10, 20 listings is extremely small.
Yeah.
Like it is very challenging to keep, yeah, just like you said earlier, just even know like what do we have in the house? Like what have we missed? What have we lost? Just kind of keeping that like attention to detail at scale, especially, if you're doing co-hosting business, like it's hard to have them all like in one place, especially if it's vacation rentals. Like there's just not going to be, unless it's like, a beach market in North Carolina or something, and you started 30, 40 years ago, like, and you're starting today, like you're going to have to probably kind of spread out geographically and just take opportunities as they arise. And yeah, if you have 7 properties in 7 different places, it's challenging to know that every little thing is there all the time. So yeah, you're definitely, and I want to take this into, so you joined a community in 2019, and now you help lead the community as well. So I guess how did that accelerate your growth, and what was that experience like for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, growing up playing tennis, you always had a coach, right? Like, you always had somebody that had done what you wanna do. Like, you play basketball, right? You always had a coach, and that
Hmm.
coach always played basketball and had success at a high level. So, like, I just did the same thing, not after college, and 99% of adults, like, don't have a mentor or a coach, and the ones that do are usually also in the 1% of earners as well. So that's one thing my great uncle told me. He said, whatever you want to do, whatever your passion is, if it's sales, like, you're working at Google, like find a sales coach. Find somebody who can push you and who can show you like, here's the next step, here's the next phase of Mike. And so found that in short-term rentals. And I tell everybody, like, whatever you want to do, if there's something that you're really passionate about, find a coach that has done what you want to do. Hire them, pay them, whatever. Make sure you like resonate with them too, because that's honestly one of the biggest things is like work with somebody you like and you can trust. Don't just like work with somebody that's you just met, right?
Or like
So
throughout a super flashy, Instagram post or something.
marketing, whereas like,
Yeah.
you
Try.
doing ads on top of Ferraris and stuff or Rolls Royces. But but yeah, and it'll just accelerate your growth. And so same thing. I've got a golf coach, I've got a fitness coach as well. I've got a mindset coach. So it's just kind of the easy path to getting what I want. And so that's typically what I tell people. And now, my mindset coach 2 years ago, she was like, "Hey, if you had all the money in the bank, what would you enjoy doing? Like, what would you do on a daily basis, hour by hour?" And I had to think about that for a long time. And I still think about it a lot too. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'd spend most of my time helping people. I don't know what I would do, but I would spend most of my time helping people. Now that's what I do. I help people find properties, grow co-hosting businesses, make it relatively passive for them, and do shit that actually matters. So that's what I enjoy doing now, and also play a lot of golf. I got 2 little kids too, and I'm gonna tell them the same thing. It's like, whatever your passion is, find a coach, work with them, and surround yourself with other people too that are doing this, you know? It's huge.
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I would say someone who definitely for years like pushed off, like kind of had the I can do everything like myself mentality. And definitely realize that that is not the way of thinking. I mean, you can, but like just what you don't know is going to be bigger than what you know. So someone who knows what you don't know is like the ultimate way to like fill in the gaps and figure out, the puzzle of what you're doing. Also, like getting a coach in my way is like committing to something. So like there's so many things you can do on like a daily basis. Like for me, and probably for both of us, like we have relatively passive, businesses, like, we probably have a lot of time to, like, choose what we wanna do, and, there's too many choices. So but, like, when you just say, "Hey, this is something I wanna do. I've got a coach," that's like that is then committing for me at least, that's like committing to doing it. And whether, you pay them, that's putting your money where your mouth is, or it's just accountability. There's like no better way to actually commit and decide and choose to actually do something and actually do it if, unless you get someone there to coach you for it. So I couldn't agree more. And then also just breaking back what you said earlier, I just want to circle it is kind of funny what you said, the Vacasa trend, because I actually one of my actually my first mentee ever, he just picked up like a duplex in Oak Isle that was previously managed by Vacasa. And he said it was like the process of getting them to like send the bookings and like
Mhm.
send the money over was like such a complicated, slow process. So I guess I'm curious, yeah, if you pick up a Vacasa client, like, is working with them, or is that something you've seen, like, working with Vacasa to get them to actually give over, like, the keys, like, pretty challenging?
Yeah, it can be, and North Carolina the state of North Carolina makes it a lot more challenging. There's a it's
'Cause
called the
of the
vacation
whole,
rental.
escrow accounts?
It's called that's a big piece of it too, but the North Carolina Vacation Rental Law Act, or the Vacation Rental Act, it was done in, like, the '80s, basically says for 6 months, if the property owner cancels, the contract, or if for whatever reason, the property sells or anything, the guest who books that stay, their booking has to get honored for 6 months. So what Bigcasa can do is they can put that booking in a similar listing of one of theirs, or Bigcasa can keep it. Like, there's a law in North Carolina for whatever reason that for 6 months they can keep it. So, and Vicasa's not gonna, like, hand over bookings or anything like that because it's their client or whatever. But yeah, for 6 months, I had to work around their bookings. They wouldn't move any of their bookings, so I took over for a client for 6 months. I had to block the calendars, I had to make sure the property was clean and everything. Vacasa never responded. They did a awful job cleaning and just very, very difficult to get in touch with. And just it was the same issues that the property owner that I was working with was having previously and why he moved to me. But yeah, to sum it up, that vacation rental act makes it a lot more difficult, but then just like communicating with Vacasa to begin with is can be a huge pain. So
And that's why the owner went with you in the first place is because of the communication issues, which is
yeah.
interesting. So, that essentially, at least in North Carolina, it's 6 months of pain in
Yeah.
order to have everything then finally run smoothly and, integrated into your systems.
Yeah. 100%.
Got it. So what are some other ways? So, guys, if we're listening, we're looking to start a co-host property management business in 2023. And I do tell people because people ask me all the time, like, what's the best strategy? Or like I get sent deals all the time. Like, is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? And this isn't the exact dollar amount or exact percentage that I need to make in order for this to like hit what I need. And I'm like, all right. Well, first of all, there's definitely a lot of unknown. Like I can't perfectly predict numbers. Like I don't know how you're going to operate the property. I don't know how you're going to design it. You're definitely, there's a little bit of shooting off the hip in this game. But if you're worried, co-host. Like there's like if you're worried, it doesn't matter if you make another $100 or, another $10,000 or lose $10,000 with co-hosting. because you're just taking a percentage of that top line revenue. There's no cost involved. So that being said, yeah, I guess do you see co-hosting as like just the best, best no risk way to get into the game in 2023? And then also, what are some tips you and tricks you have for folk looking to, get their first co-host client?
Yeah, for sure. I think it is. Like if you have one listing, it just makes it easier. Like if you own a property and you want to get into co-hosting, it just makes it
Mhm.
easier because you have proof of concept. But to land the first co-hosting client, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You're gonna have some sales skills, or at least have some at bats with clients. So typically, what I tell people is like start with like have your elevator pitch of what you do. Like what does your company do? And it can be as simple as like I help investors 2 to 3x, their rental income through short-term rentals, like something like that. Or hey, I help vacation homeowners manage their property and make more profit, like something like that. But go tell your family, friends, loved ones what you're doing. Start with people that know, like, and trust you, and just say, "Hey, I'm starting co-hosting a business, and essentially what that is I'm managing property for other people and running it as a short-term rental. The benefits are more revenue, and you also get personalized care from a boutique company like mine. We're going to help with listing optimization, pricing optimization, and revenue management, and make this as passive as we can for the homeowner." Something like that. And just like see where those conversations take you. Call 10 family, friends, loved ones in 2 days. Check in with them. Hey, Jeremy, how things going, man? You doing good? Like, what's new? How was Italy? How was San Diego? Oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. And they're always gonna ask you, well, how are you doing? And at that point, that's where, hey, I just started this new business. And then see, if they're in real estate, great. Hey, do you have any, long-term rentals? How's that going for you? You ever thought about Airbnb? You have any friends that do Airbnb? Like just open up a line of communication. And then a lot of the times they will refer you to, hey, I know, you know, Uncle Bobby's got a place at the beach, or like, there's a lake house that I've been looking at buying. Can you help me run the numbers for it? So start there, get your elevator pitch down, start with family, friends, loved ones. The Vacasa Evolve strategy is obviously really good. You can also look at Zillow listings that are for rent.
Furnished predominantly.
Yeah, they're furnished. That definitely helps. And yeah, I mean, just pitch homeowners on it and get as many at bats as you can. It's a numbers game at the end of the day, but it's also, how dialed in do you have your pitch and your value proposition based on their pain points?
Yeah, and I think I listened to your podcast. I think Mike.
Yeah.
I listen. I do my homework, and something that you said that's also something that we do that's extremely helpful. And just saying, if you're looking for like a mentor in the short term rental space, whether it be like arbitrage or co-hosting, I would definitely recommend this be one. I mean, this is probably the most valuable thing if you have no listings and no experience, but like someone who's able to like lend their portfolio and credibility to you.
Mhm.
So you can say, hey, I've worked with Mike, or Mike, might even hop on the call, or Jeremy might even hop on the call and say, hey, like, I can vouch for this person. They, in a way helped, me with, these 25 listings that I have, or I don't know the way you exactly phrase it. But yeah, I guess is that something you do and that's something you've seen be helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it just adds credibility. So like people ask me to hop on, client calls with them, and I just
Help you
come in as an
help close.
advisor. Yeah, just
Yeah.
essentially just help close the deal and bring some credibility. Mike's got 3 hotels and 20 some properties. And then I got 20 some properties too. So I can come in and just be like, yeah, they're following our systems, and it's verified too. Like we've got many good reviews and property owners that work with us. So it's just a good way to leverage leverage your network and just leverage the people around you to help grow a business.
Exactly, and that, yeah, getting that first listing, like just showing being able to show listings. So like obviously showing your own is the best
Mhm,
way. So whether however you get that first one, sometimes arbitrage, getting that first one, it's a lot easier to get an arbitrage property because you're
mhm,
effectively bribing the landlord. I mean, really, you're paying them. So that's the easiest human way there is to get something, get a desired outcome is
mhm,
to give someone money for it. So yeah, getting that first, or if I mentioned you get that first listing through arbitrage, and then they go the co-host route and they have like their properties to show for it. But if you don't have that, then like you know, being creative and obviously not lying, but showing someone else's experience. So
Mhm.
I thought that was a really cool parallel, and I thought that, that value there is like obscene. So yeah, so we're hitting the time here, but what I want to get into is, what is your big, 2023, uncertainty and all that. What is like your biggest like pro tip to help folk succeed nowadays?
I mean, I always tell people this, but be yourself. Like uh if you're working with a guest or working with a homeowner or working with a lender, like don't try and be something different. Like be yourself. Just know that like the person that you're trying to become, let's say you're trying to hit 10K a month to leave your job, like I was, or try and hit 20K a month to be able to retire your spouse or even like retire your mom or something like that. Think about that person and like what your why is behind that and just be yourself. That's kind of the mindset shift of like you don't have to be anything different that you are. You just have to step into that new identity, that new person that you want to become. But you don't have to change your morals, your ethics or anything like that. I think a lot of people are scared to step out of their comfort zone because they feel like, "Oh, what are people gonna think of me?" It's like they're still gonna think of you well, and if not, like, that's okay. They're probably not important to you. So be yourself, and then the other thing I'll say is, when you're growing a short-term rental business, keep your clients updated on what's going on in the market. So we touched on it a little bit earlier, like Vacasa and Evolve, they don't communicate well with their property owners. But if you
Mhm.
can, what we do is we send out a quarterly report, and I'm in 6 different markets, so I just do a 2-minute video of like, "All right, here's a quarterly report on Banner Elk. This is what I've seen." So we had a good summer, not a great summer. Occupancy was down about 6% in the entire market. Your property was up 8% year over year, so that's good there. Here's what I see coming in the future. I see it's gonna be a cold winter, unlike it was last year. It was very hot, and so the ski slopes are gonna be a lot better, more active. I think there's gonna be a lot more people coming to the area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise prices a little bit for right now and see what happens. And just give them like a quick update. Doesn't take very long. You got to do a little bit of research, which you probably should already know about your markets. And then if you deliver that once a quarter, you're going way more above and beyond than any other property manager would. That's my more tactical tip for everybody out there growing their short-term rental businesses.
Gosh, and as you say these things, I have so many questions, but want to be mindful of your time. With pricing, I was wondering, do you use Price Labs?
Yep. Yeah, I haven't
That's
checked out their new algorithm yet though.
got it, because yeah, that's been like my thing the last few weeks is trying to get data points of who's because I actually I was at the STR Nation conference in San Diego, and Price
Mhm.
Labs was there, and they were going through my listings and, oh, have you considered the new local or whatever it's called, like local, hyper local algorithm. And I said, I have no idea what that is. And they showed me, and like, it was actually kind of funny because they have a feature where they'll show you your pricing spec with their algorithm. And like, I do so many manual adjustments
Mhm.
that, so then they looked at mine, charted, and it was like, oh, this is actually, they're like, damn, this is actually pretty similar. So, and I, maybe because I don't know, I was doing like the whole hyper local is like to essentially like the edge cases, the big
Mhm.
events and whatnot, to accurately, reflect those. Because before it was like looking at a whole market, and some event, in Banner Elk might not drive dollars for my property in Silva.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, it was interesting there, but okay. When you find some people who have switched to it, let me know, or maybe I can have them on and we can just do a deep dive of the effect of that. But really, Mike, thank you. I mean, this has been so great. How can folk find you if they're interested in following your journey?
Yeah, it's just at Mike Riley NC, Instagram, Twitter. Those are
And
probably my
see, baby, let's
2
go.
active.
Where'd
Yeah.
you go to college, by the way?
I went to Penn State. I did 2 years at UNCW, played down there, and then, transferred up to Penn State.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna have to play tennis sometimes. I did not play in college, but I played growing up. So maybe next time I'm in the New Bern area, we'll definitely have to. I can't play golf as well as you, so but maybe I could rally a little bit in tennis.
Well, you can kick my butt in basketball, man.
Hey, all right, let's do it. But awesome, Mike. Thanks so much for coming today, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Awesome, guys. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed today's episode. Stay tuned for next time. This is the Short Term Rental Pros podcast.